You better watch out if your enemy's a road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me. And he gets caught real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score. Never getting bored, lots of blood and gold. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really listen until they feel it worth their blood in. If you start shit, you'll be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you let scars rip. You'll be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me...
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Man, it's been a long week. Donald Trump has signed a lot of executive orders, and done absolutely nothing to help the American people. I don't think he's done a single damn thing to make American lives better.
It might be up to like a couple of hundred executive orders. Like, I'm not actually making that number up, and not a single one will help any American.
Yeah, but those egg prices, though, you know.
Those egg prices.
Donald Trump is shutting down or blacking out complete organizations. Like our health department can't even put out if there's an emergency virus or some kind of illness going around right now. They're not allowed to disclose any information whatsoever.
They got rid of
the bird flu
of the website, of the official White House website.
Yeah, they took the Constitution off the website. We covered that on Tuesday. Yeah. It's but this is going to be an epic failure. There is protests going on all over the world. We are not seeing it because our corporate media has bent the knee to Donald Trump.
And all our social media is owned by
all
Donald
of our
Trump.
Social media is owned by Donald Trump now. They've all bent the knee and licked the boot of Donald Trump. So, that's the world we live in. So every once in a while, a story sneaks through social media that we do see other people, like Germany, especially 100,000 people.
Oh, my God, yeah.
In Berlin on the streets, just protesting the AfD party, which is the new Nazi party in Germany, the one that Elon Musk very openly supports.
Oh, he was there the other day. By the way, after his worldwide reveal of his Nazi salute, he went to one of their little functions and spoke, and he was like joking about, hey, we got to watch out how we wave to everyone in front of actual German Nazis.
Yeah, so they just think it's just funny. And Donald Trump, I think, has single-handedly set civil rights back 70 years from eliminating the Equal Employment Opportunity Act to getting rid of DEI altogether, which makes no sense because...
It's pretty obvious. He's trying, and not him, because he doesn't even know what day it is, but the people controlling Trump want to make this a white Christian country.
They do.
Where men run everything, and if you even mention the book Handmaid's Tale, you get arrested. That's where we are right now.
Yep.
And you know what the number one target is? You know what the number one target is always going to be? Education. Because if you have a bunch of stupid people, you can manipulate the crap out of them.
Exactly. They want to control the information. They also want to rewrite history, essentially whitewash history, and make it seem like it wasn't that bad. I don't understand what's going on. It's crazy. It's crazy in 2025. I think I saw a T-shirt on TikTok that said MAGA says morons are governing America. I'm like, I've got to buy that.
That's a good
T-shirt.
one. How have I
know, because that's what it feels like. So today we're going to focus again. We are focusing again on education. But as well as discrimination, because we're going to talk about a story, true story that's happened in America, and we're going to see a lot more of these stories of people being fired over their sexual preference or sexual orientation and or skin color or religion or
their gender or
political affiliation.
Oh, you know what? They probably won't even hire deaf teachers anymore because they're trying to basically get rid of sign language because they think it's weird looking.
Yeah, and I have a daughter who's deaf, so imagine how that makes me feel. So anyway, returning back to the show, is Liz Mkhitaryan, founder of Stop Moms for Liberty down there in Brevard County, Florida. How are you, Liz?
I'm great, you guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Great. I mean, we don't have to live in the scary armpit of the political universe. So
I'm still riding the I told you so high for now. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting a lot of I told you so moments on TikTok. Because every time they do something, like her, We're like, we called it. We called it. We literally
But
called it.
we're not geniuses. We're not like looking in the crystal
No.
ball. We just use our brain to interpret what we're seeing and not listen to propaganda. And Liz, as you know, propaganda is meant, in my mind, to replace education, because education's job is to create functional citizens that have the ability to think critically, discern fact from fiction. And a dictatorship, or at the very least a fascist regime, doesn't like that.
Right.
And they're going to do whatever they can to hide our differences, to hide our sameness, to hide our struggle that we're all going to be facing against this regime together. And I think that's what today's show was always going to be about, even despite a little bit of a last minute change, if you want to kind of go into that.
Sure. Well, we started thinking about sharing some real stories. And so the first story that we want to still share, we have Jeff in Wisconsin, who was a principal there and really has spent his life in the community and went to school at the same school that he was then principal of. I mean, it's pretty amazing story. So Jeff was ready to come on, but in discussions, apparently his attorney reached out to him and said, not yet. You know, it's not a good place for you to put yourself out there so publicly. And who knows, any word that you say publicly can be used against you at this point. So Jeff will not be joining us. I did put that disclaimer on our Facebook site. So hopefully people got that message.
One thing I do want to say real quick about Jeff, and you mentioned it, that he went to school there. And since this is all kind of public record, I feel it's important for me to reiterate. Teachers are part of their communities. Not always, but more often than not, teachers end up going back to their at least state, their town, maybe even their school district. And just a quick rundown. This was Jeff Scott, the childhood school district for 9 years. His dad was on the school board. He started his teaching career there for 7 years. He returned after 20 years to be the principal. His sister taught there for 19 years. His great uncle's name is on the cornerstone of the building. His great aunt was the cook, and his aunt was also on the school board. We're talking about someone who has been embedded in the community, whose family has been part of the fabric of their education for decades, for generations. And we have bigots now telling him that he maybe shouldn't be teaching there.
Yeah. And I think the whole purpose of, anyway, my purpose in following the story so closely is everything I was reading about this man said that he was a great educator and that he was the right person for that job.
Beloved educator.
That the staff loved him, that, the climate in the school was good. I was just watching a video of, I think it was at one of their board meetings. A teacher was talking about how the climate had changed so dramatically since all of this happened to him. And yes, they're still, doing what they need to be doing in the classroom for the students. They don't let that impact them. But the climate at a school is really important for the longevity of your employees. And so, if people are feeling still that the heart of the school has been pulled away, that is tough.
I think it's important to, again, and something I know you always focus on is not just the teachers, but the kids, because what seems to get lost in all of this, what Moms for Liberty seems to have used as a banner, but ignored at all turns, are the kids. Okay. And when you said the climate in a school district, at the very least, affects the staff, the teachers, everyone, kids are not stupid. Kids pick up on this. Kids pick up on emotion, on what's going on. They know what's going on because, at least for now, we have free press and we could see what's going on. They know what's going on with their teacher. We're talking about kids that are growing up in a generation where they don't understand that there are people that hate people just because of who they want to marry. Like, they don't understand. So you're now affecting the kids' education. You're giving them a mentality of being in an oppressive environment. And guess what? That's what these forces want. They want kids to be broken. They want parents to be broken. They want teachers to be broken so that it's just misery, suffering, and they get used to this.
And I like to remind everybody that this environment did not exist before Donald Trump. I mean, not like this.
The attempt and the struggle was always there, but Donald Trump has always been nothing but a giant battering
It's made
ram
people
to get
targets.
Christian nationalists into our government, into our schools. And we see it's happening. Why? Because Moms for Liberty didn't exist without Donald Trump. Moms for Liberty now is basically encroaching on every single aspect of our lives, from the aspect of education. They're in my school. They're in Liz's school, because guess what? That's where they were created. And Jeff is suffering these consequences. Why? Because a Moms for Liberty presence is on their board and forcing them to adopt fascist ideals. Am I exaggerating yet, Liz? I want to know.
No, I don't think so. I think the connections can be drawn pretty much with everything that's happening against our schools, against our educators.
Yep.
They have become very coy with, removing the Moms for Liberty label from what they do. But they can't hide from what we know to be true. A while back, we had an instance of them trying to proclaim that they had no connection to the Proud Boys with a particular leader that they had for Moms for Liberty. But they can't cover up the other 30 connections that they have or so.
I agree.
Connections to the Proud Boys. And so, this kind of smoke and mirrors that they're trying to use to step away from the real gist of their movement, they can't get away with it because there's just too much information out there that we have.
I agree. And, I want to hear, before we go into how all of this what Jeff is going through, is it indicative of what has been happening to a lot of people in this country, specifically educators, but how this is just one piece of the overarching, fascism that we are going to be facing, and also how the world sees it. But before I ask you to go into the case more and really what's going on, because you're our knowledge base now, thanks to Jeff, unfortunately, having to suffer the consequences of this. I want to use one of his quotes. I didn't realize that some of this was public record. So before we started the show and we knew that Jeff couldn't come on, we had to do a little bit of rearranging. So I was blanking out his name, but I want to bring this one back up because I want to reiterate, this is a principal who is suffering the consequences of weaponized bigotry. And I want you to know the words that he is saying, the things that he's thinking while he's fighting for his job and his reputation. This is something that the hateful grown-ups that have made their presence known in this situation aren't thinking of. Throughout all of this, there's a big pattern of people not thinking about the kids.
That's such a huge quote. It
Moms
really
for
is.
Liberty really wants you to believe this is all for the kids. But it's not. It's for afraid, weak people who don't have the ability to understand a wider world than was forced into their tiny little brains when they were kids. I'm going to say it again, Liz. Am I exaggerating? Because
under the oligarchy, we are a workforce, and they can't have an educated workforce because then we'll have our own opinions and our own views.
We won't be obedient.
They need to subjugate and oppress us as much as possible. And that starts with the kids because they're the most easily impressionable. I'll give you an example. I watched there's a video going around on TikTok because everybody, you know what I mean? Because everybody justifying the whole Elon hand gesture thing. And so we're all of us are all right, do it. I made a video about it. I'm go to your job, get everybody in front of you, and then
I love you.
Do it proudly. Yeah, do it. Throw your heart out to the crowd, just like Elon Musk did, and see what happens. And this woman on TikTok gets her little child and gets her kid to do it. The kid doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what this means. You got him. Yeah. So him and his mom.
Grooming.
Yeah, exactly. So there's him and his mom doing the old how Hitler salute on social media. That's going to follow that kid around the rest of his life. If he ever realizes that, or he turns out to be just like his mom, God forbid, we have another generation of bigots and assholes, because that's what we're breeding right now.
Because we didn't stop it. So all we could do is prevent the spread and try and bring people back into the reality of this situation. But that kid, unfortunately, is probably going to grow up exactly how we think he is, because he's not going to be exposed to alternate views. I hate using alternate as if they're equal, but you know what I mean. Social media is already being restrictive on the reality of these things. So he's not going to get to see people in other parts of the world or other parts of the country be like, that's not right. I mean, we're seeing because I've always believed education has to start in the school. It is supplemented by the home, but it has to be supported and encouraged by society. If the society you're in does not value functional education, you are going to get little Hitlers walking around, because it's not just what you see in school that influences a child, obviously. And they know that because they're trying to get rid of it all. They're trying to get rid of the representation.
We talked about this before on the show, is we have a large group of population that can't think for themselves. And I think that's what happens when you don't educate yourself, or you educate your kids, or you educate your society, is they look for other people for opinions. You know what I mean? And sometimes they don't look to the right people for those opinions, but then they just, I don't even know how it starts, but this is what they want. This is what they want.
Yeah.
So Liz,
all right.
Let's focus. What the heck is this all about? And how did someone who is a beloved teacher become a beloved principal, and then allegedly, do I have to even say that word, get kicked out of their position that everyone thought they should be in?
Well, it wasn't allegedly, his contract was not renewed. And this is the approach that would happen in education. People aren't, quote unquote, fired. I mean, sometimes they could be, but the general pattern is that people just are not brought back to their positions.
That's
so
how they pretend they didn't get fired. It's a moral firing. It's not a physical.
Yeah. Well, we didn't fire them. We just, didn't renew their contract. But in essence, it is the kind of the same thing.
And what is that based off? Data, performance? And I'm being somewhat tongue in cheek here, but I would think you're looking to renew a contract for a principal or anyone that works that way in a school setting, and you go, all right, let's look at the numbers. How many? What are our test scores? What is our success rate? What is our graduation rate? How do we rank nationally, state, world? Not, oh, this guy got a husband.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. And I mean, it's pretty clear cut to me from having had my whole career in education.
You know how it works.
The teaching staff in a school can tell you if there's a good administrator or not on board. And to my understanding, the majority of folks in that school support Jeff. And
what it seems like in all the media is
that's being ignored.
Yep.
And they're clomping onto these, little pieces that they can inflame. That, I mean, there's an example of something they're complaining about, how he had students photograph themselves at their homes. So in my little brain, I'm like, oh my God, I've done that 3 or 4 times in my career, and it's just that school and home connection. And it's a way for, you getting families involved in the educational piece. And yet that was twisted into, he had some kind of nefarious.
They have no sense of, they have no bottom.
Shame.
They have no bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, there were some things about his leadership that they are, talking about. And I haven't seen any evidence that supports what they're talking about.
Well, it's funny. We typically think of evidence as just what could be presented at the moment of like a hearing or a trial.
Right.
And that is what someone's job should be based on, clearly. But there is one more factor. And the irony is that in my mind, this counteracts everything Moms for Liberty stands for. Their whole shtick is the parents should have the ultimate say in education, right? Yeah. Okay, let's pretend that you know anything about curriculum. Let's pretend and put that aside. You now are saying that the parents, ergo a community, should have a vocal say in who is in charge of their kids' education. Well, since this has happened, Liz, and I've done a little bit of research because Jeff sent us information, you sent us information, and obviously we try and know what's going on when we talk about something. To your point, there is no vocal outcry against this gentleman. There is no anecdotal evidence from anyone going, oh, yeah, I saw that. Everyone is coming out in support or being quiet because they're trying to figure out what's going on. But there is no one saying in any public forum, look at what happened. Look at this. They're not. They can't even find lies. They can't even find misconstrued truths. This is all they got, and they have no evidence to support that. They're just saying it.
I think, unfortunately, we're going to have a lot of this coming in the near future. People being fired.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Thank you again. Yeah. No, sorry, the comments always distract me, but I think we're having.
It is.
We're going to see a lot of stories. Why do you think he suspended the whole civil rights department of the Justice Department? I
Well,
mean,
we're gonna
he's
get to
gonna
that.
be violating all of our civil rights. That's the whole point. He doesn't give a shit. He wants to suspend civil rights
Well, the
altogether,
beauty is,
so he can do whatever he wants to us.
you know, we were talking about this before the show, and as always, Liz kind of forces me to refocus how I'm thinking about things. And I was,
Oh my God, I'm indoctrinating you.
with knowledge and thought processes and education. Because let's face it, at 43, my education is not complete, and it never will be until they put me in the dirt or throw me in a dumpster or whatever they do with me. I just think it's important to understand that what they are doing is a shock and awe tactic, and they are not above using courts, using people's jobs, using school boards to facilitate this fear tactic. Donald Trump can't just eliminate amendments to the Constitution. He can't just eliminate laws. So when we report that his executive action is, say, taking away these things, some of them he might be able to if he's undoing just a previous executive order that was allowed to be standing and didn't become law.
Yep.
But he can't get rid of everything, okay?
Yeah.
But it's a fear tactic, Liz. You made this perfectly clear. This is what he's doing. He's taking fascist tactics and browbeating all of us with fear and a blitzkrieg. Think about it. The guy signed
these are
how many executive orders, whether they mean anything or not, they got us afraid. They got us talking about it.
70%. I forget who reported on it, but almost 70% apparently came straight from Project 2025. Which you said
that he's not associated.
did not exist,
yes,
and Trump has nothing to do with it.
Like 80% of his nominees are a part of it, but whatever.
Yeah. That's our biggest. Oh, I told you so. You know, it's like we were trying to tell you. And see, as people are seeing this unfold, more and more people are jumping that ship and saying, "Wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for," and that's a good thing. You know, for
I told a buddy of mine who's not into politics, and I've always tried to get him involved, try to get him to vote. He wouldn't vote. But now I told him, I'm like, look, man, this goes beyond politics. You might want to look this stuff up. And I told him about like the whole canceling, just getting rid of the Equal Opportunity Act. And he was like, what? And then he called me this morning out of the blue and apparently did some research. It was not happy whatsoever.
Good.
Well, that's good. You lit a spark.
Well, it's getting people, and he likes to run his mouth too. So I know he's going to tell everybody. So that's good. But I think it's going to backfire immensely because Donald Trump is the only thing I'm worried about is Donald Trump's going to piss the population off so bad that people do start to rise up in the streets, which sounds good when you say it. And I know I always like to say like
except for the fact that Pete Hegseth is going to allow tanks to trample over people's homes just to shut them up.
Donald Trump is looking for any reason, and I'm being dead serious. Donald Trump is looking for any reason to invoke the Insurrection Act.
Yep.
All he needs, he is looking for his Reichstag fire moment.
Yes,
all he wants is civil unrest where he can say, look, it's Antifa coming to get me or whatever, and then kill them all and then say, yeah, the Democrats planned it. We have to assume total authority, yada, yada, yada. I like to remind everybody, too, because I like to do research, too, on world history. It only took Hitler 53 days to dismantle the entire German democracy at the time. Legally, he did it through legal means. Donald Trump is talking about doing things that are, well, they used to be illegal. Now they're just called official acts, according to the Supreme Court.
We do have protections that are built in. And we do have structures that are developed. Somebody was just talking about, but the Supreme Court, this and that. And I said, but don't forget, a Supreme Court member who is a lifetime appointment is not going to sign their own power away to the executive branch.
In the end, they won't. In the end, what they will do to destroy our country will be wide-reaching and terrifying, but they will not eliminate their own usefulness.
No, but they could. The amount of damage, though, and the amount of lives he's going to harm by doing all this is,
if we look for a moment,
immeasurable.
And we go back to, where is this? I think this feeds right into what we're talking about today with Jeff. This is a brilliant comment. I just gave him a video from Brian Tyler Cohen and Elias talking about individual firing. Not everyone has the resources to push back, nor do they want to be public and suffer MAGA wrath. Again, when you incite a base to allow them to be to allow them to verbally assault and physically assault people in the streets, and then you let 1,500 violent insurrectionists out that are now going to be the leaders of those groups that hunt down people in the streets. Even if you do have the means to fight back legally, people rightfully are going to try and protect themselves and their family. And when you don't have everyone either having the legal means to fight back, or they're afraid to, the numbers of who is willing to fight back are disappearing, are hidden. Yeah. The numbers of who this is affecting, we won't know all the stories. We won't know everyone who's being affected by this targeted hate and targeted bigotry that is meant to destroy not just our government, but specifically our education system. Not every teacher, as we know, has enough money saved for their retirement to afford a legal team to fight for years or months to defend their job. That's not a thing that we can do. And guess what? Guess whose tactic that is? Donald Trump. Because when you look at all the lawsuits that he's won, he hasn't. He just outspends the other people that are bringing the lawsuits. So this is just another capitalist tactic to outweight the little guy, to make sure you win because the little guy can't fight back. Again, if you can't afford to pay the fine, it's not really a crime except for poor people. So if you can't,
and that's where I fall back on the structural protections. John Smith may not have an individual structure where he can individually fight back, but that's where all of the, organizations and support systems, that's where they're stepping up.
Yes.
The what's it called? The Human Rights.
The Human Rights Campaign
campaign. ACLU. All of these organizations are stepping up.
Hey, don't forget, Donald Trump now has the power to revoke the nonprofit status of any group that he wants. So how long will these
that doesn't mean that group will shut down.
Exactly.
It simply means that their structure.
They'll just have to get funding.
Yeah.
You know what? They'll be more dangerous if they could be funded.
Well,
that's a possibility.
Yeah,
we need some billionaires.
Careful what you ask for, kind of thing. Yeah.
That's what it is.
And I think overall, we have to really focus on the part of history that this is, right? That's what gives me a sense of sanity, is that we have lived through worse. We honestly have.
Because it's hard for some of us to see. I mean, Jeremy and I are old enough to see some struggles and see some things that have went down. And Liz, you're only like 5 years, 10 years older than us. So
try 20, guys.
I'm trying to be nice, but let's take a look at someone, and we bring her up all the time. We finally posted some of her videos from the Women's March, the People's March. Look at Addison. Addison is 11 years old. She also says hi, by the way, but she's busy saving the planet by cleaning up her community, so she can't watch today. She hasn't seen worse. She's only known Trump. This is the worst thing she's ever seen in her life. How do we convince people from not necessarily Gen Z, but how do we? Because we have to protect Gen Alpha right now. I think most of them are going to be okay, but they are so at the mercy of our education system and this indoctrination structure that's being put in place to destroy their minds. How do we convince someone like Addison, who might be a student of history, but hasn't felt it and seen it, that, like you were saying, we've had it worse and we've come through? How do we get people to believe that?
Well, I'm not really sure of the answer to that, but I definitely know the question, right? Is we have to listen to those that have experienced things, I guess. We have to be open to looking at things from a different angle. The benefit of being in this place and time right now is that our communication structures are so much more developed. When I was coming up through the civil rights, wonderful human being Addison is, she sure is. Awesome. When I was coming up, in the 60s, nobody knew what was going on, unless it was down the street from you. Here,
even in the 80s,
little thing that's going on every place in the country.
I mean, that's why they're fighting to control social media. They're trying to get rid of what we know.
The strength of social media is that connection. Unfortunately, it's just as bad in the negative realm of things. But we are so much better informed. But we also have to recognize that the other side, I'll call it, is using that structure to fight their war too, right? That's where they put out their rhetoric. And so we have to get better at doing the same. And so that's why I like to say things like, there's no comparison right now with our history with the days of lynching that I was just kind of on
I
the
really don't
end
want to see us get back
of
to
that.
that, please.
Well, and I don't think we ever will. And so my feeling is we're so much better equipped now to fight back, and
Mhm.
we have so much more allyship than we've had in the past.
Hmm.
It used to be that, a marginalized group went out and had, a parade, or they had a gathering or whatever.
Hmm.
And it used to kind of look the same amongst, those that were impacted. But now it's broadened into this ally relationship. And that's the strength of, I think, why I have such hope, right?
Mhm.
It could be, it could feel like, oh my gosh, so Jeff was scared away from doing the program. But I don't really even see it that way. I see
No,
it as, if we are going to be the person that claims to be an ally, then you have to continue to do the work.
absolutely.
And it has to
Allyship
be that
isn't a slogan; it's an act.
sometimes we're
Mhm.
carrying the water bottles along, and sometimes, people that are marginalized, they can do this work as well. But if they are not able to, for whatever particular reason,
Yep.
that's our job, is
You
to
know,
carry on and make sure that the messaging goes out there.
it's funny you say that. That goes very much in line with your partnership with Stop Moms for Liberty's partnership with Defense of Democracy.
Yeah.
We on the progressive side of things, because I don't necessarily like the strict concept of the Democratic Party. I think we all
Mhm.
need to rephrase what we're fighting for, but
Yeah.
the need to not centralize but organize the information. It's
Right.
not
Mhm.
enough to go and show up at protests, because guess what? Everyone at those protests are very likely there for the same reason, but that doesn't mean all of them know all the facts. And what, like,
Correct.
you're building with Defense of Democracy is trying to not train but get information out to as many people as possible on options for ways to fight back. And to your point about not everyone being able to, and not everyone having the resources,
Mhm.
maybe you could do research. Maybe you can just help in ways that aren't public, that won't put people at risk, that won't affect your legal fight to defend your life and
Yeah.
yourself. We need to build a coalition of information to get that information into people's hands who just want the information raw, but also
Mhm.
want to be able to use that information to help. Maybe they could
Mhm.
start a podcast. Maybe they
Yeah.
could start their own grassroots movement. I
Yep.
got to tell you, the more podcasts and the more YouTube shows out there that are talking about the facts and showing what's happening and the lies and the pain and the suffering,
Mhm.
that's what we need. That's what the right has had
I
for
just
decades. We need that.
this
And I think that's how we win, is we make
I
sure
don't
we
know
don't
though.
shut up.
I think we don't have it. We need our own media outlet,
Sphere.
man. We
I
we need our
agree.
we really do something that's not tainted by MAGA and Trump, because even Google's compromised.
You're right.
I'll tell you what. If I tried it this morning. I didn't get too much into it, but I'm trying to find out if Google searches in the United States are different than those outside the United States,
I
and I
have
have a
no doubt.
VPN. And I can instantly see a difference when I turn my VPN and set it for like England. You know what I mean? My search results are definitely different, but I haven't had much time to really pick it
This,
apart yet. So
this is brilliant.
Mhm.
And I'm going to
yeah,
tell you
we
why.
almost yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, for one simple reason: the severity of it. The people that ran, operated, and assisted and benefited from the Underground Railroad knew the stakes. And I think if this last election pointed out anything, it's that we still as a country do not understand what is at stake. And the only way you do that is through education and information.
And
Once people
unfortunately,
realize it,
through experience too.
well, that's
You
the
know,
thing. You're right.
Yeah.
Until people
there
see
has
their
been
nephew get taken out of this country, or see
exactly,
their best friend lose their job, or someone start
exactly.
losing their rights, unfortunately, as human beings, we tend to be very microcosm oriented. What's in my
Mhm.
little sphere? But once that
Mhm.
Yeah.
sphere starts getting chipped away at, because the outer edges are starting to be in trouble, then
Mhm.
we'll see it. And the only way to do that is to keep talking about it, to keep
Yeah.
passing the information.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
the truth.
Jeremy?
Well, since we're passing along information, yeah, that not only, yeah, his whole first week, he has harmed this country. I don't even know. It's going to take us years to recover from his first week. I mean, think about all the crops that are going to spoil because there's no workers, because all the farm workers are scared to show up because they think ICE is going to drag them off and detain them.
Well,
Louisiana is actually talking about lifetime imprisonment for people that are deemed illegal immigrants.
what does that sound like to you? Because what are they going to do with them? They're going to put
slave
them to
labor
work.
force.
Right. You know what that is? That's almost the Fugitive Slave Act coming back. Oh, we'll take you. We'll just keep you here. If you don't want them here, why would you want the cost of them here? If you say they're a drain on society and you're just going to put them in prisons or on a work camp, who's benefiting from that? And private prisons, not you and me, not the citizens.
This is how dumb this is Donald Trump now wants to use military equipment to fly, like military planes to fly people out. And apparently it would cost like I'll look it up. It's an insane numbers, like $80,000 for so many people.
If you're gonna, they flew like 80 people out for like $800,000.
Oh, $800,000. That's right.
The plane was rejected at the country. But think about it. All right, $800,000. Everyone should be offended by that cost, but let's bring it back around. $800,000. That's a lot of pencils and school books that could buy. So again, where's the money going? Is it protecting people? Is it benefiting people? Is it helping anyone? Or is it just perpetuating the nonsense? So let's take a look at that, because I think it's important, Liz, and I know you want to speak on this. This story came out a few days ago, and it looks like, although I don't know how much verification there might be some confusion around what happened. So the original reporting was that ICE visited a school in Chicago, and it looks like they may have actually been the Secret Service. But what was interesting is, let's keep reading. Chicago Public Schools Chief Education Officer Bogdana Chikumbava, walks out of the Hamline Elementary School on January 24th, that was this week, to talk to reporters. CPS announced that they blocked federal immigration officers from going into the school earlier that day, but later found out it was Secret Service agents investigating a threat. So number one, my opinion, allegedly, that's a lie, because the Secret Service has nothing to do with threats on a school. The Secret Service's job is to focus on the executive office protection.
Correct.
So that's either a lie, a misnomer, or just nonsense. But Liz, what does this reinforce yet again? Who is protecting the children in this country the most?
Well, and I mean, that's, as you said, like you see these examples pop up across the country, and I'm sure this will be a lot more. I've heard some reports out of Boston, out of New Jersey, I believe was another one. And it's
that was the
mirrors.
Veteran that they
let's
took.
Threaten the people and, make them so afraid. And they think that tactic is going to win. But here's what makes my heart feel good, right? So we have been talking at length about these things happening within the Stop Moms for Liberty network. And we have a whole lot of educators that are part of our network, rightfully so. And you're hearing things like teachers saying, over my dead body, they are not coming and taking my kids. So the other side has underestimated what the pushback will actually be.
Right.
When, a restaurant owner might have like 4 or 5 employees, that restaurant owner is not going to stand silently while they come and they physically rip, the 1,000 or
human beings.
They are human beings. And it takes, that mentality of the Nazi movement to actually accomplish this.
Thank you.
And I think we have individuals that are that crazy, but we don't have that structure within this country. So you're hearing things like the teachers saying, no, you're not going to do that. Ministers are going to be the next at bat saying, no, you're not coming to our congregation and stealing our people.
The reason you said that is that, look, my views on religion are one thing, but religion in this country is considered a safe haven. It is at least supposed to be. Right. And there were at least, I don't know if they were laws or norms or whatever, that the sanctuary that houses of worship protected would not be violated. Well, the Führer in chief has said those protections will no longer exist. So they are going to go into your church and rip out your friend that, guess what, you didn't know their legal status and you didn't care. And suddenly when they drag them away, are you going to go, well, they were illegal? Or are you going to go, holy crap, this is affecting people?
The part that I think scares me the most is the whole fact that they want to set up or already have set up an ICE tip line.
Oh, yeah.
And
Let's overload that
now
with
racist bigots on social media, every time they see somebody that's not
Brown.
white, they're like, I should call ICE on you. Like,
But honestly, what a waste of money. Tip line, really?
Yeah, how about this?
Where intel is from?
Let's make a national federal tip line for preventing suicide for trans kids who are going to be targeted by this bullshit.
No, there is though a DEI tip line email address, I think, that you can report people that you think were hired as a result of DEI. Ironically enough, though, it's been flooded with spam and it's actually unusable. So like I said, there are things we can do to fight back and even be annoying as hell. We can send emails. We can make phone calls. There's a lot of good trouble we can get into.
They're operating from this premise that they think they have a mandate from the American people.
We showed that they do not.
X, Y, and Z.
No.
They don't. It was not a majority win.
It was
25% of the population, though. It's
that's what's important is he didn't win 51%. He didn't win 50.00001%.
Right.
He won less than a majority. End of story. Period.
Yeah. Because they worked the system.
I just want to give out someone who is near and dear to my heart, a huge shout out, my aunt who watches the show, who was a teacher. Liz, I've mentioned her to you a bunch of times. I think you too. A show between you two, I would just sit back and watch. It would be awesome to listen to.
Let's do it.
So she said about the Underground Railroad comment, we may be entering the age of the Underground Telegraph, where we move information and facts rather than people. We may need, not illicit in the sense of illegal, but we may need covert information sharing to make sure that the propaganda and the channels that are being closed do not outweigh the facts.
Don't say covert, you'll trigger somebody.
This is from someone who got banned from multiple social media for giving Republicans the business and who would hotline the White House.
I like her already.
So,
I love it.
But Mike, there's a good example, right? What's the worst that can happen? Ooh, they send you away for a day, so you can't comment for a day.
All right.
Free speech will always win. Always.
The right to criticize a government is the most important right humans have. It is more important than our lives because they could take our lives, but they can't. No, I'm not going to quote. I'm not going to quote Braveheart when Mel Gibson is in that movie, but they can't take
I would venture to say, though, that Donald Trump's fan base has substantially shrank in the last week. I've heard stories of people losing. Well, there's one story going viral right now about a guy who inherited $1 million from his grandfather and put all of it, and he has a wife and 3 kids, I think, put all of it on Trump coin and lost like $700-something thousand in minutes.
I'm not even going to pretend. Good.
That's insane.
What needs to happen. That needs to happen. Yes. People need to. Now we're at, Liz, you like to say it off air. We're at the find out phase.
Yeah. FAFO.
Yeah. Yes. So I think, again, and this whole thing is when your kids start suffering, when your family starts suffering, when your kids go to school and say, I just watched a bunch of people get ripped out. They just took my best friend. You just made an activist about that kid's parents.
Correct.
And I think we need to understand, to bring it back to education a minute, this isn't something that just happened since he took office. Okay, this is like Jeff. Jeff's been fighting this since before its second term, correct? Well, guess what? You're not going to, this isn't just starting, it's going to get worse. As of 2024, 23 states have laws explicitly protecting LGBTQ people from discrimination at work, in school, and in public places. From the UCLA Law Center, 33% of LGBTQ employees have left a job because of how they were treated by their employer. 47% of LGBTQ workers have experienced discrimination or harassment at work at some point in their lives. Maybe there are laws protecting them for now, but people can still act like, assholes and bigots and still make the lives of people so miserable that they want to leave. Or, like you pointed out, Liz, he wasn't fired, Jeff, but his contract wasn't renewed. So not only has this been happening, but it is going to get worse unless
you're going to see a lot of stories
fight back, unless voters fight back, unless parents go to those school board meetings and fight back with their words and their
Yeah.
votes, this is going to be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
It's a shame that this is where we live in now.
I think that people are starting to take that role of fighting back, where they're just throwing their hands in the air and saying, you know what? I give up on trying to stay neutral, because you can't stay neutral.
Anymore, you can't.
Here's my favorite quote. I better not start
just
hearing
doing
things
my-
like I was just doing my job. And as I like to
Yeah.
put out, my immediate answer for that is we had some trials in this little place called Nuremberg in Germany that said following orders is not an excuse to torture human beings and make their lives suffer and genocide them. Okay,
No.
so guess what? You're not doing your job. Your job is the oath you swore. Whether
You
you're a
don't-
teacher, a police officer, or an elected official, the oaths are there to hear. I want to hear you say the words that your job is to protect people. Your job is for people. Because when you break that oath, no matter what, if you put your hand on anything or not, you took the oath.
Yeah.
And that's what's
Liz, let's talk about book bans for a second, because Moms for Liberty was the pioneer of this whole book ban thing in America.
Modern book ban.
And with the modern book ban, where basically anything with a gay character, like if there was a gay butterfly character, that was somehow grooming kids. So they were banning like ridiculous stuff while promoting the Bible, which is probably one of the worst kids
Thank you
or
so
worst
much,
kids
Noah.
book of all time. Kids should not be reading that book. Do you think it's just, I mean, it's just going to get worse. My worry is that, I guess, do you think it's going to turn into book burns? Because that didn't take very long.
Book burnings.
They've had them, and
already
they're
had
going
that, Johnny.
to. He will not denounce them. No
We
one
just
will.
Well,
haven't
here's
seen
the
it yet.
thing, though. Here's the thing. The impact of book burning was a local impact, where this was years ago, and everybody in the town would come and they would see this event taking place. So everyone in the town was afraid because they figured that no one else cared,
Yep.
right? Now you have one little incident happen, the whole world finds out about it because of the internet.
Right.
And so they can't operate with such like this stealth
Impunity. Oh
have
no, you
had.
mean? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, that they can't get away with the same level of attack. If they had, you know, in the days of lynching,
Okay.
it would take a while for the messaging to go out there just by
Yeah.
word of mouth that, oh, there had been a lynching in,
Yep.
you know, downtown.
And by then it's like,
whatever.
what are we gonna do?
Yes. So now it's
You'll get a million people there
minute
the next
anybody's
day.
anywhere, you see their phones up and they're taping everything.
Well-
That's why all of the issues with police brutality have been put on the front
Yep.
burner,
Yep.
because we know about it now. It's always been this way.
Yep.
This
Oh no, absolutely.
this racism has always been there, and I like to use the I guess the kind of graphic picture of Trump didn't invent all of this stuff, but he took the lid off of the garbage can.
He
We have
did.
always-
That's what I hate.
We
That's
have
a good way to
always
say it,
had,
garbage
yeah,
can.
we have always had this level of hatred and bigotry and so forth, but it
That's what
wasn't
we are as a
acceptable in
country.
public. Yeah. So
Instead
he
of
took
though-
the lid off, so it's like, you know, do whatever
I
you
think
want, wherever you want.
Donald Trump, instead of taking people and trying to get them to change the way they view the world and other people, he just went ahead, like you said, took the lid off and made people just say, oh, now I can be as much
Yep.
of a prick as
Correct.
I want.
Well,
You know what I mean? And it's justified now because the president.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
Jesus
that was always
Christ.
the thing. You're supposed to look at your president. Like, I hate this concept of watch out who your heroes are, because this country has always put athletes, soldiers, all these other people and made them heroes for the reasons that we don't want them to be a hero. If you want a soldier to be a hero, talk about doing honor, duty, sacrifice for others, fine. If you want to, but athletes and people who just go to war and police officers, that doesn't make them a hero. Heroicism is from an act of selflessness.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think
to
it's
me,
important.
heroicism right now is
Fighting back.
the teacher that says, over my dead body, you're not taking my kids.
Well, I think one thing someone made a good comment that I think wrapped up into this is Liz, you kind of said, I think you said there's like an awakening of what's going on and more people are starting to fight back, at least vocally for now.
Yeah.
And this is one reason. The problem is people making these laws of protection have been so slow to realize the danger.
Yeah,
We
that's a
have
great
to be
comment.
careful to understand that at this point, at least, there are still some people left in our government that the fascists have not purged. And there's still people trying to do their jobs. And not everyone at every local level understands the full implications. And as much as I want to say, just look around and you'll see what's happening, it doesn't work for everyone.
And
not
only
everyone has
use-
access to media that tells the truth. Not everyone
Right.
wants to believe it because they just don't understand how easy it is for atrocity to become normalcy. And I think when the people start resisting, right? This look at the new executive order or whatever it is about getting rid of all these inspectors general. If you haven't heard, that was an executive order. Mein Führer said the other day, and already all those of the inspector generals have been like, "Yeah, we're not going because you don't have the legal authority to dismiss us." So Liz, like you said, this is part of the fear blitzkrieg. An executive order is just a piece of paper. If it doesn't have any law behind it, it means nothing. So he may not be able to fire them for a number of reasons. Even Republicans have come out and said, even if you did have the authority, we need 30 days notice. Congress. So there are legal protections that even some Republicans are starting to realize, if we allow them to get away with this, who saves us? And guess what?
Exactly.
First they came for this, then I did nothing. Then they came for that and I did nothing. If we're at
I
the
have
point,
a perfect example of that.
we're starting to see actual Republicans do this, there is a resistance forming.
I think so. And it's going to be kind of done under the radar a little bit. But an example I'll give is Marco Rubio was just interviewed. And when they asked him a pointed question, like, do you support X, Y, and Z? I don't remember exactly the specifics, but he skirted right around that issue. He is the appointed Secretary of State. He has all the power in the world to say, yes, Donald Trump is correct.
And
I
he
support what he did. He didn't.
Because
he didn't answer that because he doesn't want to be on record.
You know, you make a great point, and I think it's in line with something that, like I've always said, Jeremy said, and a lot of people saying it. A lot of these, and I'm going to say a harsh word, scumbags are going along with Trump to pad their bank accounts, to get power, and feel a little bit about what it's like to be in the White House. But when it comes down to it, I think whatever they may personally be okay with, you know, a lot of these Republicans, they might not be fascists, but well, to their mind, but they still want a Christian country where abortion's illegal. Fine, whatever. But a lot of them are not willing to pretend, maybe to your point, Liz, that in 4 years, we're going to have a different president. Okay? In 2 years, we may have a different Congress and Senate, and they're not willing to destroy every fabric of this country for Donald Trump. So to your point, right now they have the Congress, the Senate, the executive branch, they have the SCOTUS, and Marco Rubio still didn't say, yep, Trump can do whatever he wants. So you know what?
Exactly.
You've been providing us little bits of stuff to hold on to, and I'm going to cling to that because maybe we need to listen to, even though they're being they're obfuscating their answers, they're lying, they're being intentionally vague. That speaks more volumes than I think I gave that credit for. So maybe we need to look at stuff like that.
Well, and that's probably a good marching order for everybody, right? Is you need to hold on to something. And what I hold on to is looking at our past and looking at what we have survived through. Democracy is pretty damn powerful when it is put in place. And it's absolutely worth fighting for, right? That's what all of us are doing. But it's pretty difficult to take down a democracy unless you allow, you know, one leader to take over. That's what has crumpled democracies in the past, is that nobody knew what was going on, and then all of a sudden you're in a dictatorship.
You bring up a really interesting
these days we know what's going on and we're seeing it unfold.
We know that Hitler was able to dismantle the German democracy, which, by the way, it wasn't like it was the strongest democracy. In the 30s, democracy in general was way younger than we like to pretend it was. It might have been here in America for a while, but the rest of the world, it wasn't as embedded. And the entirety of the German people at the time, had no access to any information that wasn't put out by their radio station and their newspaper. And two, did I start with A or one? Whatever. And two or B. The German people in general were united. They were given a scapegoat. They weren't split already. America has always been dramatically split. Even in times of dire unity, America has been an intensely divided nation from day one. And there's maybe, to your point, Liz, there's something about American democracy that has always held a division and a distrust of unity that might prevent us from allowing unilateral fascism. I don't know. It's almost baked into us to not agree with each other. And what Hitler did in Germany was go, look, we all agree everything sucks. We don't know them. And they all went, I guess that's right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I like to remind people too that he took over during the Great Depression. Everybody worldwide was suffering.
Everyone was hungry.
Right.
And you know why people from America even thought that the Nazis were like amazing and Hitler was awesome? Because it was almost like how Donald Trump was on The Apprentice, how they made him look like he's a lot better than he actually is. So what Hitler did for the Olympics, when the Olympics went to Berlin, he dumped as much money as he could get his hands on into making Berlin look like a utopia. Like brand new buildings, stores
That's
were
true.
busy.
They put up all the flags. There was this sense
It was
of unity and patriotism.
100% propaganda. If they would have went, but like Liz said, information, the access to information didn't exist back then. So if you would have went 5 miles outside of Berlin, people would be, living in the dirt, not even dying on the streets and shit because they can't eat.
Well, and propaganda is a lot more difficult to have succeed now.
Right.
Because the other side has just as much access to sharing information.
I think we need to understand also the timeline of it. And I do want to get back to a little bit about some support for this country and some other things we're seeing. But one of the last things I want to say is you're seeing a lot of propaganda and a lot of truth. And whatever happens, let's use Germany as an example. There was a unity that existed. There was an awareness that existed when Hitler took power. That didn't exist in this country. So when Donald Trump took power, there was no unifying vision of what this country needed to be, how we fixed it, and how we move forward. So,
and he has thought that he was going to be the one to be able to apply that to the situation.
And there's never been a majority. This country has never been majority MAGA. Okay, forget the vote, forget the lack of mandate. People who self-identify as MAGA are a minority. Yeah. People who voted for Trump are a wider ranging group of people than MAGA. And we have to separate that.
Yeah.
I got to ask ChatGPT a question. What was the population of 1930s Germany?
Oh.
What was?
Yeah, because statistically, we have to look at what 350 million people can expect.
Correct.
And that's a lot different. I want to point out.
All right.
Go ahead.
65 to 70 million people. And he couldn't keep his shit together there.
That's the amount of people on average that voted for each candidate in this election. Well, we know how many people didn't vote.
We make the point about education and how important that is, right? So, a little piece of education is that Nazi Germany was developed based on a lot of what was happening in the United States.
It was all a segregation.
People aren't aware of
Jim Crow.
They really need to, look and read about that history because, that was kind of an eye-opener for me. It was like, well, yeah. So when in Germany, they started saying that they would not recognize anyone that was not non-German in marriage.
Yeah.
That came directly from our policies here in the States.
All of it was. Yeah. All of it.
When Donald Trump...
Well, I was just going to make the comparison of back in the day, a lot of the things that were allowed to happen, like you said, under Jim Crow or even prior to that.
Reconstruction was one giant
were because people didn't know that things were happening. In Boston, you weren't able to pick up either a newspaper or, log on to the internet to know that there were lynchings happening in, let's say, Alabama or something, right? Now it's instantaneous that we know what's going on. Well, and so they have to realize they can try whatever they want, but the pushback is immediate.
Right. You know what the world sees? The world sees Donald Trump building concentration camps, where the world did not see Adolf Hitler building concentration camps. Okay, so there's a big difference. Well,
and
people didn't know at the time this was going on, but this is not. It's not going to end well.
Other countries are reacting.
I was just going to bring that up.
Germany, I'm sure, is like, what?
Oh, well, we'll talk about that.
They are pissed.
Yeah.
Let's look at this from the Irish Star, and I like to point out the Irish Catholic country Trump administration bans pride and BLM flags and implements one flag policy on U.S. 1 second, though. Do you think he'd be upset if they flew Trump flags? I wonder when that's going to happen. Anyway,
Oh
the
God.
State Department has issued a new order called the One Flag Policy, where pride and BLM flags are now banned from being flown on certain buildings in America, which has led to backlash from certain groups of people. The Trump administration has banned pride and BLM flags from being flown on any U.S. facilities or diplomatic buildings, as the State Department issued an order for immediate action. The world, and I'm going to reiterate this, the Irish Catholic newspaper is
That was
like,
my background.
maybe we don't ban pride flags. Maybe the rest of the world doesn't care about this stuff. That Americans, MAGA Americans, thinks the whole world is anti-LGBTQ. No, the crappiest countries are anti-LGBTQ. Countries that have functioning democracies and healthcare and happy citizenry are not anti-LGBTQ.
Mm-hmm.
We are becoming the vast minority because our extremist outlooks, and the world is watching. Germany, after little Elon Musk did his little, hey, how you doing? Here's my heart, is removing every mention of him from all of their museums.
Yep.
They are calling him out on their newspapers, saying what it was that he did. Entire countries are revolting against America while showing support.
Yep.
They are not going to support us. If we become this fascist state, they are not going to allow us to travel there.
Well, and
And
I think
eventually-
actually a call to action from today, right?
Yes.
Pay attention to what's happening in other countries, because they see the level of foolishness. And although, Thump, I call him with a TH,
Yep.
likes to go public with, I'm so well respected and I'm so beloved by all of these countries. That's not the reality. And I
No.
have relatives over in Scotland, and they're just appalled. He's actually had a lot of activity in Scotland, Trump himself.
Oh, yeah.
They probably call him the C word in Scotland.
Yeah.
They like to use
Oh,
the
do.
sorry.
No.
There's a gratuitous use of that on his.
Just kind of wrapping this all together. Years and years ago, we wouldn't have known what happened to Jeff, this little principal in a little
Yep.
elementary school.
True,
Yeah.
very
I
true.
think it's actually K-8, but it's a little broader
Okay.
than elementary.
Yeah,
But we wouldn't have known what was happening in this little town outside of Racine, Wisconsin, right?
Mhm.
But I'm able to log on and I can find videotapes of what was said, what
Yep.
was presented.
Yep.
And that's how we are going to handle all of this moving forward,
Yep.
is that we need to realize that what's happening is a small minority have latched on to little pieces of power, but it's not going to be enough for them to succeed.
Well,
And I've said that specifically about Moms for Liberty.
yep.
When Moms for Liberty first came down the road in my
Mhm.
area, we laughed it off, right? And it was like,
As you
oh,
do.
okay.
As
They're
one
mad
does at
because,
Looney
the
Tunes.
one person lost an election. But what they did was pulled in and became part of this huge structure that was against what the majority wanted. But they didn't care because they were empowered. So then they had some success to begin with, because people didn't realize until, people like us sitting on this panel today
Mhm.
started telling them what was happening in other places.
Yep.
And their reputation now is more well known across the country.
Yep.
And so it's not, we can do whatever we want. They can try whatever they want. That's going to be, ICE can be told, oh yes, go to such and such a place and, pick up
Yep.
20 or 30 kids. And if we in this country, which is the country that I was born in and that I've loved my entire life, and I still even love it today, even though
Mhm.
I'm not loving the activities, but we have folks in this country that are not going to let this succeed. And that's
Right.
what's so damn important, is to realize that, boy, oh boy, they've set up what seems to be this, as you said, the House, the Senate, the
Yep.
executive branch, the legislative branch. They've set up this structure that we think is insurmountable, but this is the best that they can possibly do.
You're right.
They aren't able to then come up with,
No.
another 2, 3, 4 million people to
No.
rise in the
No.
streets.
And they can't silence everyone. They can't put
can't.
everyone in jail. And the
Right.
cat's out of the bag. And I think,
Yeah.
Liz, you said something earlier. It might have been before the show, when me, I always throw out a million overlays and you're like, no, that one's not. No. And one of the ones was because you wanted to focus on the positivity and not just be doom and gloom. And Jeremy and I are very apt to focus on the doom and gloom because it gets our rage muscles up.
Yeah.
But I want to try and focus while we do. I think we have to still show the horrors, but I want to show that there might be some light. And I know we're getting towards the end of the show. We might not have focused as much on Jeff as we would have liked, but I think it's important to understand this is all
Don't want to
linked.
get him in trouble.
Well, and I hope that day will come where he can be on.
Eventually, he'll be able to share his story.
I
But we are
wanna
going to have
show
him
that-
on as a guest, hopefully, though, just to,
This is-
help.
He exemplifies the example of we can't turn our backs on what's happening because these are real world consequences. Here's
gonna be hard to look
career
at. You gotta see it.
educator, loved in his community, and this has happened to him. Now, that war is not over in that little town outside of Racine.
No.
I think it is Racine, Wisconsin. I'm not sure. But I mean, people know what's going on. They don't like what's going on.
Exactly.
And so his battle is part of this huge war that's going on. And I believe he's going to win that battle.
You know what I
And
think?
our job as allies is to make sure that we play the correct role in supporting him through that battle.
I think,
And today's correct role was not necessarily having him come on personally.
I agree.
So we will continue to share his story and other stories. I think he's going to put me in touch with someone up in the Boston area that just had, that kind of, event happening in their careers. And I know of a superintendent, I believe out of Pennsylvania, and the majority of people in this country, it's been proven over and over and over again, do not agree with fire them because they're gay. The support is not there. And if they think that they are putting this structure in place, a structure needs to have millions and millions and millions of people in support of whatever that structure is for the structure to hold. And I don't think it's going to hold.
Well, I don't
They're
think
going to fall
They're gonna
apart. You
piss
even
off-
see that within their
Well,
movement, where they're eating each other.
you guys
Yeah,
are
they're gonna piss
focusing
off.
me right into this last slide. No, really,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
They're going to piss off their own constituents in the process, and they're just going to make more people mad, and it's just not going to work out well for them.
You've been saying, Liz, about like almost gathering allies and the fact that you can't turn off all the information anymore. Even though what I'm about to show was primarily based on what's been happening in the MAGA movement right after Elon's little hello, this is going to be indicative of more and more MAGAs. Remember how I said earlier, not everyone who voted for Trump is MAGA, but MAGA is the base. MAGA is what drives the decisions. MAGA is not as unilaterally, working together in their minds as they were. Okay, here's some people's responses right after Elon Musk. It was like a harsh slap in the face. I have much work left to make amends. The past few weeks have instilled in me a deep regret. I wish I could go back and change my vote. Yeah, my mother, who told me yesterday she now wishes she could go back and choose differently. I knew she'd come around. Didn't know it would only take one day and an executive order that hurt me. My father said he regrets his vote. A little late, but it's something. My best friend and I had our first argument over how bad it's going to get last night. He thought it was AI. Woke to a text this morning saying, I'm so sorry I was wrong. They're insane. I saw another girl post that she regrets her vote and wishes she did more research.
And, I think part of that is human nature, right?
Yeah,
we want to have this vision of things being okay.
Yep.
And until that's proven, we tend to think, oh, no, that can't be. And more people are seeing his actions and seeing, his people that are put in play. I can't wait to see what some of the Hegseth actions are going to be. A stupid vaccine? Oh, we do need
Well, I got to tell you, look, I wasn't
They wouldn't take it. They wouldn't take it.
I wasn't bringing this up. I wasn't going to bring this comment up, but since we're talking about that with Hegseth, I don't think Trump will ban protesting, but Pete Hegseth will agree to use force. This is the problem, and it goes back to what I said. This is all going to be about lawsuits and optics. Donald Trump will tell Hegseth to stop protesters, and they will fire on protesters. They will kill protesters. They will arrest protesters. And we're going to have to wait for the lawsuits. I'm sorry. These things will happen, and we will have to wait.
However,
you can't ban protesting.
However, just so people understand how the military works, okay? and I don't understand how the military works in a fascist dictatorship, but in America, you can refuse an unlawful order, and killing
Correct.
American people
Correct.
is a fucking unlawful order. Sorry,
So
Liz, I had to
remember,
say
when
one
they
F on the
say-
show, but
When they
it's
say they're following orders, they don't have to. And I'm
Yeah.
going to bring up someone very near and dear to my heart. One of my brothers-in-law spent some time in the military, and he's one of the smartest, kindest, most intelligent humans I've ever known. And I asked him recently, what would you do if you were still in the military now and Donald Trump ordered you to kill a protester? He said, I'd object. I'm allowed to do that. That's my right as an American in the military. I don't have to follow unjust laws, because the United States military, when every single service member signs up, takes an oath. And guess what that oath is to? The Constitution.
Correct.
That's what makes us different than a lot of countries. It's what makes us, our last defense against a dictatorship is our soldiers are told, if you are given an order that violates the Constitution, you refuse it. Now we're going to see who the real Americans are. We're going to see who the true patriots are.
And then there is also the whole, that would be committing a war crime against.
Oh, they've already said they don't like war crimes.
But it's going to be crazy. Whatever, we're going to report on it all, and we never hold back. Appreciate all you guys watching today. It was actually a really good show. Liz, thanks for being back on. If you know of anybody who has lost their job or has been a result or a target of discrimination,
send them our way.
Please send them our way. They're more than happy to share their story on the show. Or if they're not comfortable doing that, they can always maybe email us
we'll get
the version they want us to share.
We
can share it for them.
To
we
teachers
don't mind.
across the country. So many teachers want to go and they want to speak at their school board meetings.
Yes.
But they're afraid to do so. So they're writing out their speeches, and we're getting people to read those speeches.
We'll do it.
Yeah, and we won't share your name. We won't share where you're from. Like, we could keep everything, as anonymous as possible. But we want your story to be heard. Yes. And as you can see, we don't mind putting ourselves out there like that.
That's our job. Our job is to be the public face of.
I'm all in. I'm all in. I am all in on this. I'm not giving up. There's no way I'm going out without a fight. And I don't mean like a physical fight, but there's no way I'm not going out. I mean, if it came to it, I guess. But I mean, if it really, but I'm not going out.
Use words, and we still have our words.
Right, and we will still use our voice, and they can't silence 350 million of us or whatever the population is.
Really, they are using a model that has worked in the past, right? If you talk about Germany was pretty thinking and pretty, I guess, inclusive of what they shared in belief system.
Yep.
Fast forward to the U.S., mid 50s through early 60s. The majority of people were pretty darned racist across the country because we didn't know anything.
Yes, that was
right.
What we didn't
have that information base.
Due to lack of information.
We're talking about 2025, 2024.
Most people are not racist anymore.
We operate in a system where people are saying, "Wait a minute," and they weren't in that system before. We're in the "wait a minute, let me find out more about that" stage. Right. And that's a good thing. And that's why I truly believe that they won't succeed. And I think they have done more in building that structure against us, particularly against education. Remember, I've been watching this develop for 30 years. This is the best punch that they have. This is the most organized. And putting him in office is
it's
the
best
biggest
punch.
Success for what they're doing.
It's a fist.
What I'm telling people to hold on to, we're supposed to hang on to something, right? If this is the best that they've got, then I feel like the other side, us, are going to win. If Donald Trump is the best head person that we've got,
that's how I feel, right?
That's okay, because we can defeat him. Now, they know how to play the structure. They know how to play the games. They know how to win elections. They know how to put out propaganda. But they're in a very different climate. Younger generations, my son is college age. They don't give a flying for any of this stuff that they're being told that they should be afraid of.
Nope.
And actually, I'm looking for a great guest to have on, but we want to do a show with talking about how they have targeted young white males And a lot of them are floundering, and they're being told this propaganda that makes sense and makes them afraid.
So that's a
But
good point. I've been working on that show we've been talking about
yes,
white men, young white
yes,
men. I'm just building stuff, and one day we're gonna just get angry enough to have that show.
yeah,
But your point is right. It's about who are they targeting, because they know they can't target everyone. And when I say target, I don't mean to attack negatively. I mean, who are they trying to draw in? Who are they trying to make their next
Groom.
generation of foot soldiers? It's the
Yeah.
young white men, because in every society, the people you need to radicalize are the young men.
yeah, that's pretty true.
Always. And that's what
I
they've
have
been
a
doing.
kind of a benefit to, I can hear directly from one of those young
Yep.
white men.
Because guess what? All
And
those targeted ads are going to him.
and he, gives me information that I think allows me to then see things from where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a need, and the universe will zoom in and fill a need if we don't do that first.
Yep.
And that's
Right.
been,
Provide
unfortunately, the
alternative.
Democratic Party and
Yeah.
the left has been
Yep.
not lax, but I guess lacking in really reading the room.
Yep.
And if you've got populations of people that don't quite have their needs met, we need to be, better prepared to do that, because the other side's using that.
Yep.
Really fine
Well,
job.
because
Yeah,
all they
so-
are users. They only know how to use. They only know how to take. They don't care about anyone but themselves.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's going to be their failing, because they put a deeply stupid, ignorant, immature, probably with dementia narcissist in charge. And the people behind it are selfish, hateful bigots. That's it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I like to think in a world where more and more people realize that's not the way, we might have some chance. I hope.
Yeah, I made a video about this, and I'll close it out. Or,
Yep.
or you guys want to keep going?
Well, I was just going to say another comment that I have hope, and I find hope in many, many different places, sometimes things that you wouldn't expect. I recently had a fall, and I was fine, obviously, but when I fell, people came from all around the area over to help me.
Community.
Right.
Everything.
And I don't think that's gone in our country.
No, and
I
I
think
think
that we need to take care of others is
Yes.
still there, but we
Well-
need to understand the attack. We
Mhm.
need to develop plans, to
Yep.
fight back. But I'm holding on to the United States is a great place. We've just lost our way right now with,
Yes.
not knowing how to fight back against this majority that has felt, or
We got shell shocked.
minority
We
that
got
has
smacked in the
felt,
face.
yeah. It's sort of like, because we lived through the Nazis, we
Yep.
thought, oh, well, that will never happen again. Well, guess what?
Right.
We lived
It
through racism. Well, that will never happen again.
You know what's funny? The Never Forget slogan was never the right slogan. It was keep fighting. That's what it should have
Yes.
been.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've said that
all
a
right.
lot about the civil rights era, that
Yep.
great work was done, great advances were made, but we kind of let down our guard. And so now they have used that, I guess, lack of action against us. We did come up with, let's have DEI programming instilled, and let's train people. And, those were great things, but now they're coming after those. But I believe if we can live through some of the history pieces that,
Mhm.
I've been referring to, if
Yep.
we can live through those, we're going to live through this dingaling hanging in the White House that, sits with his poison pen.
I like to think of
Because-
him more as a dingleberry, but hey.
Well,
Yeah.
I used that term all my life until I just found
Oh,
out
really?
pretty recently what it actually meant. I was
That's
mortified
amazing.
to think, oh my
That's
God, I probably said that to
amazing.
the
I'm so
nuns
glad I
at
said
Catholic
that.
school
Whoops.
coming up.
How many
But,
people have you called a dingleberry? Well,
Oh,
now
no.
I
know.
don't even count it. So,
All right.
it's good. We need
Oh,
to gather together. We need to keep our sense of humor, like we always seem to be able to do when, we get together with you guys. I just love it.
Yep.
And we need to realize that there are real consequences. And there are folks sitting out there like Jeff that,
Mhm.
are truly having an impact in their lives. And we need to stand up for them. And we can't expect them to fight alone, because it's too
No.
big an enemy. So
No
that's
one
fight is
thing you
won
can
alone. Even
do-
an army has support staff. There's more
Correct.
people supporting a war that
I've
don't
thought of
fight
an-
than do.
I thought of an easy way you can fight back, actually, is talk to the people that didn't vote. Don't alienate them. We need them. We
Well,
have to unite.
if
We
I
have to
can
unite
take
the
just
people.
2 seconds to, as Stop Moms for Liberty National has put in play, we've announced that we have an initiative called RAGE, RAGE, against fascism. And it is a plan that we're putting out there for people to have local events in their area that's just simply pull together the support pieces that are in your community. We can talk about things on the national level, but if, Joe and Susie are being attacked at their employment place or, within their church structure, whatever, where do they go for help? And it has to be more than just lip service with, having a nice website that says the right things. So if people are interested, they could go onto our, the Democratic Party, yes, absolutely is one of our I guess, go-to groups that we want to have involved in this project. And it's, let's make a plan and let's make sure that in the process of fighting these big wars that I truly believe we are going to win because law is on our side and the general population thinking is on our side. But that can't negate the fact that people are going to feel these consequences.
They will.
And they need to know that there are supports available. I know in Florida, we have this group called Equality Florida that is amazing and they have amazing support. But I'm here to tell you, some people don't know that that exists.
Right.
And they need to be able to say.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, about tell your friend. That's how you could use your voice. Is tell people that don't. Because I have like I said, I don't know if I told the story at the beginning of the show or before the show. Like I told a buddy of mine, like he did not vote. And I'm like, you just gotta get involved. And him seeing all this stuff got him involved. So the shock value is enough to get people aware. But we have to make sure we're not going to be like, see, this is what happens when you don't vote. You don't want to piss them off and push them even further away from the situation. We have to get them involved and let them know that this is no longer about politics.
Yeah.
This is about our very freedom.
Treat people with kid gloves and we have a right to be angry at people, right? But we also have to be strategic and realize that those votes are needed. Those people are needed. We need them to come to our side. And you can't do that by slapping them in the face.
I mean, that's what this is all about.
That's what this is what will win.
That is everything that we have. We have the sense of community, the sense of working together. And as much as I want to blame people who didn't vote, because let's face it, half of the country never votes. That, like, literally, there are half the amount of people that vote that don't vote. So what we need to do is to stop being angry at people who maybe didn't know. And I know we like to say, how could you not know? But like the three of us are in this. Liz, your brain is in the education world. Jeremy and I have poisoned our skulls by listening to politics every minute of the day so we could make shows. You know what? Most people just want to go to work and they go spend time with their family and be left alone. And not all of them want to come home and realize how screwed up the world is and how screwed up our country is. They're going to have no choice to know. They're going to find out. And we have to be there to tell them the truth when they're ready to look for it.
Right. Because these changes are going to affect everybody in a negative way. This is the nothing that he's done is going to help us. Not a damn
Here
thing.
you go. Angry does not have to mean hateful.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's a good one, Lori.
I'm good finishing
we have the right, like you said, Liz, we have the right to be pissed off after all this.
Yes, absolutely.
We told these people, and we tried to help MAGA. I would never be friends with somebody that would support Donald Trump, but at the same time, trying to get them to not support Donald Trump.
Try to use resources to see the error
has been one of the most frustrating things I've ever done.
Anger is an emotion. An emotion will not win. Take the anger, put it into strategy, and that's how we will win.
I use angry strategy. I'm kidding. Sometimes I let my emotion get the best of me. You could ask Mike. Sometimes I'm just... That's why I've had TikTok accounts banned. I'll get mad about a video and just jump on and be like, ah! And then
but we need that. We need an outlet for our rage, but we need to focus that rage into functional compassion. Otherwise, we're just going to be as miserable as they are.
Right. We
can't
I'm not
going to start feeding people that are willing to learn. Because if you're willing to learn, I have to accept that you're willing to change. Otherwise, learning serves no purpose.
Yep.
And keep in mind, this point, and I guess I'll close the show out with this, is like, keep in mind, if you still support Donald Trump after the salute, after he took away your rights, after you found out that he's lining his own pockets and his billionaire buddies, like, we know what you are. Okay, this was never about grocery price. That's why I put, but the egg prices. You know what I mean? This was never about egg prices. This was never about gas. This was never about making life better for anybody. This was about your hateful, bigoted ways that you just can't accept that other people exist and can be happy and have the same things that you have. Like, it blows my mind that this is how this country is still.
And really, Jeremy, the whole bottom line is about control and money. And the
That's all it
control
is.
piece, they are trying to control us by having this salacious news hit every single day, sometimes every single
It's
hour.
bombardment.
right?
It's meant to subdue
We
us.
have to disconnect in that process.
I agree with
have
that.
to put things in, I guess, perspective. If we hang on every word that Donald Trump says or every deed that he does,
Right.
then you just go down into that rabbit hole and you can't accomplish anything.
Report,
They
but
want
don't
you to
become
feel-
obsessed.
They want you to feel hopeless. They want you to feel like it's you get time to give up. That's what they want you to do.
Absolutely.
That's why they're doing this. This is Trump. Me and Mike are going to talk about this on Tuesday, but this is Trump's blitzkrieg. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's
Yes.
a term that Hitler used.
Yep.
I'm going to make a good
He's
overlay
going
for that one.
fast, furious in all directions and overwhelming the enemy so they can't react enough in time. That's what he's trying to do. Don't fall for that shit. It is not worth giving up on 248 years worth of work.
Whatever the hell we are.
Close. Yeah, almost
Yeah,
250 years worth of work.
If this is the
have
best
never been a
impact that they
perfect.
can make, if this is
Right.
the best they can produce,
Fair enough.
we're good.
Like,
we're
we've
good.
We've never
We're
been
We're
a
gonna be
perfect
fine.
country, but we were worth fighting for, and we were making progress. We
Yes.
were. We really were.
And we will again.
This
I
is a
truly believe
setback.
that, or
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing everything that I'm doing.
Right, I
Fair
would have
enough.
stopped the podcast if I didn't think that we were going to come out on top in the end. It's not going to be easy, and it's probably going to be ugly, but you're either all in on this or you're not. I mean,
But when I
you know
hear
what I mean?
stories like Jeff's, I know that if I just simply say, oh, this is too hard, I'm not going to do that work, that more and more people will have experiences like his, and that's not
Right.
acceptable to me.
But if people see that maybe you are doing the work, it might inspire that one person
I
to,
hope so.
fight a
So
little bit harder.
For the listeners or watchers of today, check out our website, that www.stopmoms.com, and look up the Rage Against Fascism events.
Is it on your link tree?
Well, the website is on our link tree, so they would
Okay.
just go to the website.
We can put it in the
Yeah.
show notes, the website, Jeremy.
No, the link tree's your link
Oh,
tree's
alright.
been in our bios since
Yeah,
we
yeah.
started doing shows. Yeah, you go
And
right to our
it'd be
channel
as
website or
simple
channel page.
as, they invite 5 people to their home and have
Mhm.
these discussions about what supports are available
Communities.
to
Communities
anyone
are
that is
gonna stay with us.
marginalized. Because if
Mhm.
we just wring our hands and pull on our own pearls and say, "Oh, isn't this horrible that this is happening?" then we're not really being an
Yep.
ally.
Do something.
So
Right.
allyship takes action. Somebody wrote anger to action, and that's where we're at right now.
Yep.
So let's take action.
There's a lot of
Focus it.
people that are pissed. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think this is going to backfire in their faces, like everything that they do does.
Good.
So thanks
Very
for
much.
watching, everybody. Hope you had a good time today. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We appreciate all your support so far. We do have a GoFundMe link in the description of the video. I keep forgetting what I'm trying to say. If you would like to donate to the show, we're trying to get like an official studio. We're trying to get as best possible setup as we possibly can for what's coming, so we don't have to worry about those things. So we can just
Yep.
focus on the content and doing what
And
we do.
we need to support folks like these two gentlemen because they are so integral to what we are trying to do. I've told them many times that people were telling me, "Oh, do a podcast," and I don't have the spoons to do a podcast. I don't
That's
know
a
how
lot
I
of
would
work.
even set it
I
up.
love that phrase.
Yeah.
And so, if they can support you, that in essence means that they are supporting this cause.
We have to support ourselves. All of us are part of
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. And
Yep.
everyone is involved in this and they will be harmed in some way, shape, or form. Let's not wait until it comes to your front door. Let's
Please.
realize that the hate and the bigotry are happening and let's
Mhm.
stamp it out. It's so important.
Perfect. All right. Have a good rest of your day. Mike and I will be back on Tuesday doing a live episode since my work schedule is getting in the way of me editing. We're going to do 2 lives a week for the impending future, I think. Unless that changes next week, we could have another idea next week. Who knows right now?
Yeah, well.
But yeah, don't forget to tune in. We're going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that's going on with Trump and the executive orders and Elon Musk and all that stuff. So
Lots of good
have a
shows.
good rest of your day.
Thanks,
Yeah, we have
guys.
some.
Bye,
definitely
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
We have any guests lined up? I guess Liz, before we don't have everything set in stone yet.
Well, we're talking about that show about meeting the needs of young white males.
Yeah.
We don't
Yep.
have the
Okay.
So we'll put that together soon.
We'll
Within
work
the
on
next
some
month
stuff.
or so.
Mhm.
All right. Well, have a good rest of your day, and like always, we'll talk to you soon.